Greetings, fellow high flyers. Manfred Hartman here with another episode of Vapor Trails. And today we are flying in the skies over the Ruhr, and I am taking out the BF-109 G2 Premium, which is my favorite plane in the game currently. I apologize for this being a replay rather than a live recording. I thought I had actually turned on fraps for this match, but I guess I hit the wrong button or something because it actually didn't record it, so no worries though, we can make do with a replay. Now, the reason I wanted to share this match with you is sometimes in War Thunder, the sad truth is that you are going to be the low man on the totem pole in a match. By which I mean, you're going to be at the bottom end of the BR spread in the match. Worse, the BR system as currently implemented heavily favors player performance in its calculation. So that means if you have a lot of players, say, turn fighting in the excellent P-51D Mustang and routinely getting ripped apart by Russian and Japanese teams, the Mustang, which was, I believe, once BR 5.3, drops down to battle rating 4.7, making it one of the most undertiered planes in the game of War Thunder. This makes it even that much more punishing to be the lowest BR player in a match. However, you shouldn't let this discourage you, and you should never give up, as this match will hopefully show. So here's a breakdown of the players in the match. On the Axis side, we have a BF-109K4 coming in at battle rating 5.3, a pair of ME-410s at 5.3, a G6 at 5.0, and a trio of Dornier 217s at 5.0, a pair of Focke-Wulf 190A5s at 4.7, and myself and another G2 coming in at the bottom at battle rating 4.3. On the Allied side, you have a Spitfire Mark 14E, that's the Griffin engine version of that aircraft, and LF Mark 9, which is currently one of the fastest climbing, I think it actually is the fastest climbing propeller-driven aircraft in the game right now. A B-17E at 5.3, and a captured Focke-Wulf 190A8 at 5.0, a Beaufighter Mark 21 at 5.0, the cannoned armed version of the F-4U at 4.7, and 4 P-51D5s coming in at 4.7, which is laughably low if you ask me, but I don't work for Gaijin. And finally, a pair of B-25s at battle rating 4.3. As if that weren't bad enough, we had a player crash on takeoff, so we were going into this battle a man down. Now, I believe I was a bit understandably nervous about the outcome of this match, but I certainly wasn't going to let that affect my level of play. I was still going to fight my hardest and do all the right things to try to secure victory. And it is in fact that determination which ends up carrying the day. So at present we're climbing out past 4,000 meters, and I am just monitoring the enemy dots as they appear on the horizon. And you'll note here that I've chosen to bring out the optional underwing gondola cannons, because why go into a fight with just one MG151 when you can have three? It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. And I've noticed that there's one dot that's climbing pretty high ahead of me, and I'm just trying to climb as hard as I can so that he won't get above me. And it turns out to be this Spitfire, piloted by the Fortress, and he and I actually have a little bit of a history. In a previous battle, we went into a quite an epic dogfight where we did rolling scissors from high altitude all the way down to the deck, and he actually ended up getting the better of me and shooting me down, so I was pretty keen on getting revenge in this pass. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you bring 3 MG151s when given the opportunity. I fear no head-on pass with that level of firepower at my disposal. So I've spotted a P-51D behind me, and I'm just making a quick bank to head in his direction. As always, I am going to stay high and try to maintain an altitude advantage above him until I am close enough where it's tactically feasible for me to dive down and get a reasonable firing solution. Now, the flight model for the BF-109s has changed pretty dramatically in this patch, but the footage is from the old patch, so take this footage with a grain of salt, and I plan on covering the changes in a future video. Now, he appears to see me coming, and he goes into a shallow dive to try and pick up speed, but I'm coming in at a from much higher altitude than he is, so my energy state is higher, and I'm catching up to him. He slowly realizes this and decides to do a split S and cut underneath me. Now, the P-51 performs much better in a dive than the BF-109, so I'm just going to let him go, and I'm just going to pull back up into the vertical and preserve my energy. Once I have arrested my speed just a bit, I decide to go into a loop to see if I can't get back on that P-51, and he is forced to go into the vertical to avoid my teammate here, and because there is a cloud between me and him, I decide not to try to push a head-on right here because I can't quite determine the attitude of his aircraft. But once I clear the cloud layer, I'm all over him like white on rice. Now, this is a bit of wild shooting on my part, but I feel as if with the amount of cannon rounds that went into the back of that plane, I should have gotten a bit more significant damage than central gear leg, but that's Gaijin's damage model for you. Anyway, our teammate here is in great position to finish him off, and we get credit for our second kill. As always, when I'm coming out of a dive, I check over my shoulder to make sure that I don't have any enemies on me, and I happen to notice a P-51 diving in at high speed. Now, I don't have a whole lot of defensive options here, so I decide to try to push on a head-on pass, but I don't have quite enough speed to get the crosshairs in the correct position. Now, this P-51 pulls up and to preserve his energy, and now I'm in a pretty desperate position here. I'm at low speed, and I'm not the greatest defensive flyer to begin with. So at this point, my only option is to try to force him to overshoot and hopefully clip him on the pass. Here I'm just trying to pull some spicy maneuvers, as Squire Flyer might say, to keep myself out of his crosshairs. And he finally overshoots and pulls into the vertical. Now it's my turn to try to exact revenge. I'm going at a little bit slower speed than I might like, so it's a bit difficult to get these shots in, but I'm definitely inside his turning radius, so at this point I have the advantage. It's just a question of if I can get an accurate shot in. As I've said before, I'm not the greatest marksman in the world, but at least we're still flying and we haven't taken any damage. Well, I spoke too soon. Here comes another P-51, which is going to try to pull into him and then roll over, and that way we can hopefully smoothly pull in on his 6. Have a shot for a deflection shot there, managed to miss, but we're still flying, so that's the good thing here. Trying to get that Pipper on, just falling short, but we take a clean hit on his tail section, and now he's hurt pretty badly. In fact, that elevator damage ends up being unrecoverable, and he ends up going down shortly, but there's no time for me to rest on my laurels, because here comes another P-51. I just duck underneath his guns to avoid his shots, and we pull up on his 6. Whew, that was close. At least we're still flying. The P-51 has more energy than me, so he's going to be able to outpace me, but we've seemed to have cleared that dogfight with no damage. And I happen to look above me and spot another P-51, so I automatically go into an evasive maneuver, but fortunately it doesn't seem like he's actually diving down on me. He's maintaining his altitude and just sort of seeing how the fight is developing. But at this point, it's come clear to me that I'm at low energy, and I'm also running low on ammunition, so it's about time for me to start thinking about heading towards the runway. But first, we gotta deal with this P-51. Try to push ahead on, he does the smart thing and pulls up to avoid my guns, and now I'm yet again at an energy disadvantage with a P-51 above me. Fortunately this time, I at least have a teammate who may be able to lend me some assistance here, or at least provide a distraction. As I look up, I happen to notice that once again I'm being dove upon by a P-51, so I tried to pull into him to give him the smallest window possible to shoot at me. Fortunately, it seems like he's actually not going for me, but one of my teammates, so at this point I'm just trying to position myself to take advantage of any mistakes he might make if he gets target locked on that 109G there. Fortunately, he does not manage to shoot down my teammate, and at this point, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with him in this climb. However, what I can do is shoot a couple of shots across his bow just to make sure that he does not pull down out of that climb, and that causes him to stall out and gives one of my teammates the perfect opportunity to take advantage of his low energy state and claim that kill. So that's one of the things that you can do when you're at a low energy state to help out your team. Just basically just try to slow down the enemy team as much as possible to make your teammates have a better shot on them. At the end of all of that dogfighting, I am at low altitude and I am out of cannon rounds. I've also managed to burn out my engine by overweaping it. I was not paying attention to the temperatures. I was much more concerned with trying to stay alive, and so I only have about a minute left before the engine burns up, so I definitely need to put this thing down. Fortunately, our team is actually up on the leaderboards, and so I'm actually thinking that this match might be over by the time I get back up off the ground. But unfortunately, things don't quite work out that way. Let's speed things up a bit during the landing procedure. So after a routine climb, we have reached 5,000 meters, and I'm heading towards the center of the map. We only have one remaining fighter on our team. The rest actually managed to get shot down or crash on landing, so it's just me and one teammate against two more enemy fighters. And a Dornier 217 has called out for assistance, so we are diving towards him in order to lend him a hand. At the moment I can see the dots that are harassing my teammate, but I have way too much altitude on my hands, and so I'm cutting my throttle and going into a shallow dive to try and get down as quickly as I can. Otherwise, if I dive directly on these enemies, I'm just going to snap my wings. So at this point, I'm tracking both of the dots that are attacking my teammate, and I've redboxed the P-51 because it appears that the Spitfire, which is just directly below me right now, if I went for him, I would actually expose myself to the P-51 who is behind him. So I have to take out the P-51 first before I can go after that Spitfire. So I just allow him to pass underneath me and go into a kind of a modified split S here, and I pull in on his 6. I'm not sure if he actually sees me coming, so I'm just gonna put my throttle to max and try to hit him before he realizes. And there, I've claimed my 4th kill. Unfortunately, in the meantime, this Spitfire has managed to shoot down my teammate, but in so doing, he has stalled himself out, which provides me an excellent opportunity to get shots in on him before he can correct himself. And so in a single dive, we managed to get 2 kills and score our ace in a day and win the match, while we are the lowest BR player on the team. And so I was feeling pretty happy about that, I think understandably. And right at the end of the match, the AI actually sends 2 AI P-51s to try and shoot me down, but no dice for you guys. The game's already over. We'll go through to the results. And so we ended up in first place with 5 kills, ace in a day, and I thought that was pretty good for actually being the lowest BR player on the match. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click that like and subscribe button below if you did, and remember, get high, stay high. That's the winning strategy.